Hi there, this is Josh from Literary Gladiators, and today I'm here to talk about a short story. The short story that I'm going to be talking about today, you'll recognize more as a Twilight Zone episode, but this short story was the inspiration for the particular episode of the Twilight Zone. And it was a Season 3 episode, and the story I'll be talking about is To Serve Man by Damon Knight. The episode itself is based off of Damon Knight's short story, but the episode itself was written by Rod Serling. And you can definitely see the differences. But the basis itself is very similar, and that has to do with the Kanamit. They are an alien species. They come to a UN meeting and promise to make their world a better place and, in essence, serve man. Which, in the episode of the Twilight Zone, the Kanamit is a large, thin, alien-like looking creature that communicates through his mind. And Richard Kiel, who was known for being in the James Bond movies, he plays the alien species at hand. In this story, the Kanamit representatives are three of the species. They're short, heavy-set, hairy. They look like a hybrid between pigs and people. As he describes in the story, they look something like pigs and something like people. They're short and very hairy, thick, bristly, brown-gray hair all over their abdominal, plump bodies. Their noses were snout-like, and their eyes small, and they had thick hands of 3 fingers each. They wore green leather harnesses and green shorts, but I think the shorts were a concession to our notions of public decency. So they were doing what they could to cater to the Earthlings and in wearing clothes. But they had a sense of humor. It was especially funny when they took the lie detector test, and one of the questions was, how did you get here? We walked. How did you really get here? By our spaceship. And they do live up to their promise. They end world hunger. They end unemployment. They make it so that every country has the same kind of protection against any kind of weapon. And that leads to the UN becoming purposeless. And the speaker ends up quitting his job and becoming a translator for the Kanamit embassy. While he's a translator, he runs into Grigori, and Grigori is looking to translate their handbook. In the meantime, the Kanamit, they're inviting people to take part in their 10-year exchange program, where they can visit the Kanamit's home planet. And the opportunity was so popular, it filled up within a week. Grigori missed out, but he ultimately got the opportunity along with the speaker. But by that time, he comes to realize that things are much more eerie than they actually seem. He realizes that the handbook, the title is How to Serve Man, but the rest of it's a cookbook. If you've watched the episode of The Twilight Zone, you would be well aware of the happenings of this piece. The character structure itself is a little bit different in how there is no female character that is working for the embassy, and she's not the one that makes the realization. Grigori is the one that does that. I would say that the story itself was a bit more... I think the story went into much more description, the way that it should. While I think that the Twilight Zone television adaptation did a bit more of talking about what happened beyond the realization of their handbook being a cookbook. I think both are remarkable in their own way in sparking that uneasy reaction. On one hand, realizing that Grigori and the speaker are now being set up to take part in an exchange program where they will be eaten, is quite... Being prepared to be eaten by an alien species is just a very eerie feeling within itself. But I think the one thing that gets to me is they always have the opportunity to find a way to back out. It's not going to be easy if the Kanamit is ruling their planet and they're required to take this expedition once they commit to it. However, in the Twilight Zone episode, the speaker, by the time he learns that the handbook is a cookbook, he's already heading on board the ship, and he tries to get off, but he is forced in by the Kanamit. That makes the very last scene where he is being forced to eat the sandwich and being forced to fatten himself up so that he has more to offer at the dinner table, all the more eerie. And that last line in the episode of The Twilight Zone, where one can easily go from being the ruler of an empire to the ingredient in someone's soup, is just, in a way, it's just a very, very creepy feeling that there could very well be an alien species out there that's looking to invade the Earthlings and take them for their own use. This opportunity hasn't presented itself very much. Science fiction has explored this area, but it's something that is interesting to think about, to say the very least. But I think To Serve Man is one of my all-time favorite episodes of The Twilight Zone, and I think that the story itself is a really intriguing concept that really does so much to psychologically play with the mind, kind of like how The Monkey's Paw does with that image of what is at the other side of the door. And it doesn't show the humans becoming food. It doesn't need to show the humans becoming food. Just that idea of fattening them up to prepare them. There are some instances where your mind can do enough, and I think in this case, it certainly does. I'll leave a link down below to where you can find the story. I wish that there was a book adaptation, one of Damon Knight's books where he features this among his other short stories. I'm pretty sure that the Twilight Zone has a copy of the short story in one of their anthologies or collections. I do have this Creating Short Fiction, which is a guide to writing short fiction and short stories that Damon Knight wrote. And I started reading this. I definitely need to finish this because the way that he writes with a sense of brutal honesty, but you can tell that he has a great sense of humor. I'll leave a link to this book down below as well. Thank you for tuning into this discussion video. I hope you check out some more videos from our channel, and for now, keep reading.